everybody. It's Monday, January 3rd, and it's already 2022. So let's shake off that holiday days and jump into the new year. So today, Agnes and I are going to discuss how association meeting planners can move from tactics to strategy. I'm one of your hosts, Cecilia Supp. I am the principal and founder of Rogue Tulips Nonprofit Consulting, and I'm here with my co-host and friend, Agnes. I'm going to throw it over to Agnes to say hello and introduce herself.
Thank you, Cecilia. To our global audience, wherever you're joining us from, Happy New Year, because this is the first time we're connecting this year. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And I just want to take a moment on behalf of Cecilia and I. We want to just appreciate you and thank you so much for joining with us in 2021. We've been on air for quite a while now, and you have really contributed to that success. So I just want to acknowledge you and thank you. And yes, my name is Agnes Amos Coleman. I am one of your co-hosts, and I'm an author and a consultant. Over to you, Cecilia.
Great. Thank you, Agnes. And thanks for thanking our audience. That's wonderful. So, and we do both appreciate you all. So thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. So today, as we mentioned, we're going to talk about how association meeting planners can move from tactics to strategy. And as we all know, the in-person meetings and virtual events are things that drive what we do at associations. So Agnes had suggested this topic. She's very experienced in this area, and she has some thoughts about how meeting planners can move from being tactical to being strategic, especially in this environment where we never know what's going to happen next. So I'm going to throw it over to Agnes and let her share her thoughts on that.
Thank you so much, Cecilia. I think as I was reflecting on this topic, I was looking at the COVID era that we're in. Associations are planning, are doing meetings differently. We're forced to do meetings differently. And as meeting planners, we need to start to look at how we engage the leadership of our organizations and the board of directors on a strategic approach on how to make this happen. You have to recognize this. Meeting planners actually are responsible for their own KPIs for the business that they're in. So if you're a meeting planner and you're the director of a meetings, a manager of a meetings, your evaluation is tied into the KPIs, and you have to show success. And you cannot show success if you're not involved in how the organization actually does do its strategic approach in making meetings happen. So with that thought process in mind, one of the things that come to mind, Cecilia, is that how do we engage, particularly for our associations who do not invite the meeting planners to the strategic planning process? How does a meeting planner then ask to have a seat at the table? I think that's a discussion that we need to have, Cecilia, to talk about that. We definitely, as meeting planners, do need to have a seat at the table. And I'd like to hear your perspective on that, having worked with organizations on strategic planning and strategic processes.
Oh, great. Well, yeah, thanks, Agnes, because I really appreciate so much that you are bringing this forward, because as we were prepping for this episode, you pointed out that most associations, their revenue comes from some sort of meeting, whether it's an in-person conference or a virtual event or a hybrid event. And I think if what we're looking at is revenue is one of the basis for developing your strategy long-term. So if you don't have your director of meetings or your vice president of meetings at the table helping you develop that strategy, you're probably missing a big piece of what you could be doing better. And especially since so many people join associations because they want to meet other people, they want to get education. Sometimes you need continuing education to renew a certification or earn a certification, but it's very knowledge driven. And so knowledge is actually a strategic area. So how you're delivering it might be through a meeting or virtual event of some type, but it's a strategic thing, because knowledge is what moves everything forward. And so when we're working together to expand our knowledge or improve our knowledge or take our knowledge in a different direction, that's where these meetings and how they're planned, how they're integrated into everybody else's day, really makes a big difference in just not the meeting success, but the overall organization success. So, for example, Agnes, you recently worked with a client where you worked with them, their staff team, to create a hybrid event in just 45 days. So there had to be some strategy behind that. So what were some of your strategic lessons from working with that client and helping them be successful?
I think one of the process that I had adopted with that plan was that, and of course with the team, with the organization that I worked with, is really looking at shifting priorities. The board was the one that drove that with the executive director, and a lot of that was a moving target for them as well. I mean, these are difficult times, very challenging times indeed, and we have to adapt to that as meeting planners to be able to move from that tactical meeting planner, hands-on, to really looking at the shifting priorities of the association and the organization. What is the future going to look like? The future is actually, what is the next minute going to look like? The future is not what we used to envision, when we do strategic planning, we're thinking of 2, 3 years, 5 years. The future is tomorrow. The future is 24 hours. In the era of COVID, the future is next minute. So we need to stay abreast of those shifting priorities. And when those shifting priorities happen, how do we then help our association to, manage those priorities and stay on top of them? The other one that comes to mind that we thought about as a planner, but we really didn't focus on we didn't really emphasize on it, was safety. Safety is now more paramount for us as planners, and we really need to look at that strategically as well. Having a strategic plan on how to move our attendees from point A to B, where if they're in person, or even if they're going to join us virtually or in a hybrid model. The other one is, how do we then, build, profitable partnership? This is key. You and I were talking earlier on, and I think you mentioned that about, the association profit margin. A lot of our resources, the revenues, are actually at least 50% of them, it's derived from meetings and events. So how do we build profitable, meaningful partnership to help us succeed in this area, whether we're doing hybrid or we're doing in person, or we're just going, 100% virtual. So these are some of the kind of strategic process that a planner must have, a strategic mindset to make their association very successful. One that also comes to mind that I'm going to sum up in one word is really understanding and mitigating the financial risk of your association. That is key, because a meeting not run well could sink the association.
That is a startling and eye-opening statement. So I'm glad you shared that, especially on the first workday of the year, because you're right. It could sink the association because so many other things are related to it. Your reputation, the perception of quality of experience that go along with that, the fact that people are making choices about whether or not to renew or join. I think that's really an excellent point. And one of the things I was thinking about as you were talking, Agnes, I started thinking about this topic of moving from tactics to strategy, and how association meeting planners, no matter what their title is, need to be strategic as opposed to just tactical. It's not about getting the cola to the break all the time. It's about the overall thing. And as you just said, it could just bring down the whole association if it's not a good event or something terrible happens. But I think one of the things that we as association professionals do is, because if we are not in the meeting area, we don't do that as our job. We don't think about the people who organize these things as strategic people. Like, we don't always think of them as a strategic professional. And I think one of the things we need to do is to learn to respect that. Absolutely. That there is a lot that goes into it. I always had a lot of respect for the meeting planners and the people who made everything happen, because I worked in an association where I think the 2 meeting planners for the annual conference, which had 8,000 to 10,000 people attend every year, I don't think they slept for 3 days straight. And the more things went on, the longer the conference went on, the crankier they got, rightly so. After about a day and a half, I knew to like kind of only ask them stuff if I absolutely had to, because there's so many details that go into it. But I think because they have to handle so many details, we don't think about the strategy that they could be contributing, or maybe the strategy they're using that they're not sharing, because we tend to kind of silo ourselves off. So as a meeting professional yourself, what's some advice you might have for people to change their perception of their meeting professionals on staff?
Thank you so much, Cecilia, for that. You're right. I think that we, as association professionals, we tend to look at our meeting planners as, order the coffee, get us this. So they become your, I don't know what to use, but there's a level of lack of understanding of what the role really involves. And as a meeting planner, my advice to our community is that, first of all, as a meeting planner, you need to position yourself in the organization as a strategist, because you are very important to this process. As I mentioned earlier on, you could sink. I mean, if the KPIs are not met, if the product and so, if the conference area is not successful, that revenue area could sink the association. So it's really about creating value around what you do, and really selling that value to the leadership of the organization and to the board of directors. That, you know what, I bring a significant role here and a significant importance to this role. And these are some of the areas, these are some of the mindset that needs to shift if we're going to be successful as an organization, and really start to have those kind of conversations with your leadership and your board. And I guarantee you, if you are able to make that case, they will listen. And I know a lot of association leaders want to listen. So my meeting planner colleagues, position yourself as the expert in this field, not just as the person that orders the coffee and gets the F&B ready, but as somebody that's really thought through of what the vision would look like for this event, as someone who understands this and is able to mitigate some of the financial risk to the organization. So that's the advice that I would really share with my fellow meeting planner: positioning yourself as the go-to person, as somebody that understands the trends that's driving the business that you're in.
Well, and I think that's good advice, because I think many times people say, and I've seen this happen just in my professional life when I was on staff, people say, well, we're at the big conference, let's just add another event, or let's add another reception, let's add another committee meeting. I used to have to go to committee meetings at 5:30 in the morning sometimes, because this one conference, they tried to jam everything in there. Is that really a strategic use of anyone's time? Simply because you're all there on site. Is that strategic? The meeting planner or meeting professional can come in and say, look, is this really going to serve the mission of the organization, having 28 committee meetings in a day? Is that really helping? Can we take a step back and think about that? Because yes, the committees are all there. And this is just one example. People are always like, well, we're all going to be there, let's just add on another thing. Well, that's where some of the tactical stuff can get sticky, I think, because there's just only so many hours in a day, first of all. And second of all, there's only so many rooms in the hotel that are available, and so much budget that's available. But I think when you look at these things strategically, just because everybody's there doesn't mean you should do it. There's a great quote from one of the Star Trek movies, The Undiscovered Country, where somebody says, just because we can do a thing doesn't mean we should do a thing. And I think that's where strategy comes in. Yeah, I could do it, but is it helping me in the long run? And that is it help me achieve that major goal that I'm trying to get to? So this is just such an important conversation. We're getting to the end of our episode already. So we need to start wrapping it up. But Agnes, you made a point earlier about the future. The future isn't the same. And I kind of giggled when you said that, because I remembered there's some quote, and I can't remember who said it, but the future ain't what it used to be. And so as we're closing out the episode, what is your closing thought on this topic and the fact that the future ain't what it used to be? And we have to be more adaptable as we move forward and more strategic.
My closing thought on this, I think it's really keeping abreast of what that future would look like. The future, what that would look like would mean, listing out what is the end. I mean, when you look at it strategically, when we plan strategy, we're looking at the end goal. And I think that as meeting planners, for our associations, we need to list out, we need to do our own forward thinking before we come to the table. And that forward thinking is what are some of the elements of this meetings and events, or this goal that we want to accomplish. So is the goal that we want to educate our members? And yes, if we want to educate our members, how are we going to do? What are some of the challenges and the opportunities that it's going to present? And I like the framework. I like the hierarchy of attendee needs. I always use that hierarchy because when you toss it and you dice it, that's what it's all about. The hierarchy of needs for attendees, it's knowledge, it's engagement and contribution, it's networking, it's venue in the hotel, it's F&B. So as a meeting planner, you can take that as a framework and begin to look at what are some of the opportunities and challenges that this will present, and begin to take that strategically to engage and inform your internal and your external stakeholders. So what I would leave with our audience is really take this hierarchy, use it as a framework to work on your strategic approach and sell that value proposition of you as a professional to your organization and to your leadership as well, as far as this, what you can bring to the table.
That's great. Well, thank you, Agnes. And I think that is a clarion call for all meeting professionals and for the people who work with them. Bring them to the table, let them share their insights on the strategy and how what they're doing is not just bringing you coffee, they're helping you fulfill your organization's mission. Absolutely. So we have to go rogue for now. So on behalf of us here, Cecilia and Agnes, thanks for listening. We're looking forward to another year of fantastic conversations with people from all around the globe. And we encourage you to learn more about Rogue Tulips by visiting our website, roguetulips.com. And if you're looking for CAE courses for renewal or to earn credit for your application or to get ready for the exam, check out the 501cleague.net, which is our subsidiary where we provide education for the nonprofit community. So we're going to sign off for now. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.